folks, welcome into the Seven Rivers Racing Show here on KQEG TV. I'm Dan Dyker along with Al Losi. Coming off, finally, it was here, it's gone, but we are going to be knee-deep into the racing season now as the Crosse Speedway kicked things off chilly style Saturday night. Had a fantastic time, and first off, I want to thank all the fans that came out. What an attendance on an opening night.
It sure was. It was nice to see that many, especially the night before Easter. Everybody had to be bringing their family and friends.
Now, I know they had to have close to 2,500 fans on the opening night, and that was just outstanding. And what a treat they got to see racing-wise. You saw a fantastic late model 25-lap feature brought to you by Budweiser. You had the first ever 6-for-6 dash with the Sportsman, which is going to be continuing on this year, depending upon car count, but I would presume 4, 5, or 6 on the 6-for-6 dash. Had a great second-of-the-line novelty finish. Clements Brats were brand new this year. I mean, it was a whole gamut of great stuff going on at the Speedway, and we're going to dive right into it now before we bring on our first guest who starts the season third in points. So we'll talk about that here in just a moment. Starting things off, Steve Carlson does, well, he did what he always does. He loves those double foul restarts. He's the man that will shoot to the outside groove, and then you got to deal with them. Steve Carlson ends up taking week number 1, a feature race number 1 on the year. Following Steve, Mr. I'm going to have to come up with a new nickname here because it's Mr. Consistent Todd Korish. And one of these days, those second and third place finishes, he's going to get some feature wins this year. And I think he's showing us early on this year that he's not going to mess around. Rookie of the Year contender Nick Clements finished third but was disqualified after the race for ride height. And I do got to mention that Nick Clements' first year in a late model was very, very impressive.
Oh, it was a third place finish for a person's very first time in a late model is impressive. But what was very impressive is he stayed off of everybody's bumper. He wasn't hitting anybody. He stayed out of the way. Very smart race, too.
I think what caught me by surprise, and our guest, we were talking about this earlier, on the second restart, and we're going to show you some crash footage here in just a minute, I looked down to the track because I love the chess match that takes place on a double fire restart when the cone's out. And I looked down, and Nick Clements, I want to get his reaction this weekend on that, looks up, and he starts in the front row next to Steve Carlson. Obviously the biggest challenge on the racetrack to try to catch up with the king of the short tracks. But I think that, again, did a fantastic job. DQ or not, he was happy on where he finished. And I'm kind of glad for Nick because getting a DQ on ride height early in the season, now they know what they can correct, which is very easily correctable.
Very easy.
And I expect him to go back out in a couple of nights, Saturday night, and do the same thing.
And sometimes disqualifications like that, it could just be that his shock started settling. They might not have known how to set their shocks because they do settle during the course of the race, and they may not know how their rebound is, and when they're sitting on the inspection line, it just may have been a little low.
Well, your top 10 for the Budweiser 25-lap feature was Steve Carlson, Todd Korish, Matt Henderson, Sean Paff, Jay Herb, Skylar Holshausen, Bill Niles, Harley Jankowski, Cole Shozy, and Jeremy Wagner. How about the paint job on Cole Shozy is Miller Lite number 2? Got a big beer bottle going down and going right into a glass.
Yep.
I have to commend every single driver right off the bat for being out Saturday night. The paint jobs and the cars I saw, boy, all of those classes really stepped it up this year.
And with the new lighting, it made them look that much more beautiful.
Yeah. New lighting down the back straightaway was phase 2, phase 3, turns 3 and 4. More improvements coming up at the track. If you watch KQEG, if you bring it up on YouTube and bring up the crash of the week, I think the video we're going to show you here made the highlight reel this week. This happened during the first 3 laps of the late model feature. You see Brent Kirchner, Tony Bagstad, Jeff Baker heading down the back straightaway. And 3 wide in a late model, it's not going to happen. I felt this developing up into the tower. There goes a little bit of a scrape right here. They start powering down the front straightaway. And it's what happens going around turn 3 here in a moment that set the stage for 4 cars on opening night. Right about here is where you start tensing to 3 wide. Who's going to bail first? Nobody. Baker spins. Kirchner gets out of it, but here comes Mike Carlson. There goes his hood. Tony Bagstad. Jay Herbst and Adam Degenhardt. Herbst, luckily, was the first one to pull away from that crash, but unfortunately for Adam Degenhardt, for especially Mike Carlson, Tony Bagstad, they went back to the pits on some wreckers, and there was some considerable damage.
There was, and the whole accident really was a racing accident. Baker probably came a little lower because he saw somebody coming to the outside. He probably didn't have, there's a blind spot right where Kirshner was, and he came down trying to give room to the guy to the outside, and it was just a racing accident right there.
And to clarify, of course, folks have been asking me all throughout the week, why did Brent Kirchner get black flagged? He was part of the incident. Obviously, he gets black flagged, or first off, he gets sent to the back of the pack. The rule is if you get sent to the back of the pack on the restart, you have to start on the inside line. You can't change spots as you're going around to restart the race. Well, Brent, from what I had talked to him, had some radio communication problems, didn't hear what was going on, and on the restart ended up going to the outside, passing about 10 cars. So again, they tried to let him know, you've got to go to the back. And again, said he only heard bits and pieces of what was going on over the radio traffic. Of course, then he got black flagged. Well, then he didn't really realize who was getting the flag, so he ended up staying on the track. Said he was sorry for the incident. He'll be back out next weekend. And like you said, it's just one of those racing things. But you go 3 wide in a late model, it's going to be disastrous.
It is. And also, in fairness to Brent, the double wide restart has only been around for a year or so, and there are still bugs to be worked out from the drivers and the communication from the tower.
Well, qualifying fastest was Jay Herbst. Heat 1 was won by Todd Korsch. Matt Henderson won the second heat race, and Sean Paff won the 6x6 dash. Sportsman-wise, it was a battle of the Gilsters, with Jimmy Crack Corn Gilster finishing on top ahead of his brother Danny in the North Country Contractor Sportsman feature event. Greg Scheck, Mac Inglet, and Randy Humfeld rounded up the top 5. I didn't know until after the races were completed that Jimmy Gilster set a new track record in a Sportsman, and he did it by shattering the opening night record of Rick Schermerhorn from last year. So congratulations to Jimmy Gilster. Rob Mason won the first heat, Jake Arness in the second heat, Greg Scheck won the 6x6 dash. United Auto Supply Thunderstocks. Well, Bad Brad Worthen out of Sparta, the 2010 novelty champion, ended up taking second in the first novelty race, which he won because it was second over the line, and then repeated that with a second place finish in the Thunderstock race, and it was behind Andy Moore, who told me before the races his new car feels like a Cadillac compared to what he was driving last year. Jason Bolster, the winner of the dash. Jake Krieger, in a nice looking El Camino this year, won the first heat race. Raymond Hardy won the heat race number 2. Outlaws were back, and Johnny Olson's picking up where he left off last year. He won the qualifying, he won the heat race, and a little bit of a late challenge by Jerry Ellsworth in the feature held on to win that. So John Olson gets the trifecta, and he's going to be going for his second track championship. This weekend, Window World Hornets will accompany the last car late model Sportsman and Thunderstocks, and if you bring a non-perishable food item for the food pantry, you get $2 off your general admission. When we return, he drives the number 33, and he's starting off the season a little bit better than I thought he knew he was going to. Matt Henderson is going to join us when we return on Seven Rivers Racing here on KQEG.